I think the thing that scares most of us about listening to that inner truth, that gut instinct, is that when we actually find the thing, the opportunity, the relationship, whatever in life that is meant for us, it's usually the things that are meant for us that feel the most scary, that push us to our edges. And I think that most people don't want to live in a space of fear. People don't want to live intimidated. People don't want to pursue truth sometime because it's hard to face things that want to grow you and help shape you. It can be so scary to pursue one's goal and one's dream. But dreams will stick with you. And my experience is, if we don't pursue what we're meant to do, it's gonna keep knocking at our heart until we do. I'm Daniella Malfitano, and I go by Chef D Malfi, and I'm a media host, a content creator, and an integrative nutritionist, and I am a creator. The cool part about this studio is that it's actually a garage. I love the kitchen. The kitchen definitely was something that needed to be absolutely perfect. I needed to make sure that it was workable. And so everything here that you see is actually rigged and set up to be powered by one electric outlet. And you can see I have like everything from an oven, I have a refrigerator here. I also have a working sink, and this actually is basically connected to my garden hose. So no plumbing in the garage, but I did work it out. I really built this space and this actual stand here to be able to do a 2-camera shoot. So I put my laptop right here, and then I will do my iPhone on the top, which will capture the overhead camera. So I always do knife technique here. And really all the recipes are coming straight out of my cookbooks. These are my digital cookbooks. I think my first memory of cooking as a kid was really young. I was around 6 years old, and I had really loved cooking shows, and I got super inspired after a few months of really like becoming obsessed with culinary TV that I started to take cooking on my own in the house. I made a fresh peach pie from the Joy of Cooking cookbook with homemade pie crust and real peaches. And I remember putting it together and like presented it to my family, and like my parents were overwhelmingly happy and confused by it. They were like, this is crazy, like you're so young and like you did all of this by yourself. Every week I would bring home a new kid's cookbook from the library, and I would just cook the heck out of these books. My teacher called my parents and said, I think we need to have a parent-teacher conference because your child will not read any books when we go to the library other than cookbooks, and this might be a problem in the future. And they said, we disagree. We want to encourage her to nurture this interest, and we think it's going to pay off. My sister Angelina, her and I were the closest out of all of us. She was less interested in cooking, but she loved how excited I was about it. So she would always be there to like taste test or just hang out in the kitchen with me to like try to understand, well, how are you doing this, sis? How did you slice that? How did you dice this? And it always kind of felt like she was the person that I had in mind that I was making the meal for, or that I was educating, right? And it was almost like she was the audience and she was the person that I was teaching and cooking for and cooking with. I remember doing that so often with her, I mean, from a very young age until we were in college. I enrolled in a nursing program because my mom was a nurse, and I thought, oh, this is a wonderful career. And I saw her really kind of establish a beautiful life for us as a nurse. And 2 years into the program, I was caretaking for patients on the side. I would go to class during the day, and in the evening, I would have home care patients. The best part of actually caring for one of my favorite patients who was dying of ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, was sitting with him every single day and preparing his meals. I would make whatever recipe he wanted, and then I would blend everything up, and I would put it down his feeding tube. And the joy from just sipping up his meals and sitting there with me and telling me how much he appreciated me making his food, it touched me in a really deep way. And it helped to define for me that There was something about caring for people that was less about the sickness or the illness and more about the vibrancy and thriving and life and what the food could do to maintain somebody, to keep somebody alive. And I remember coming home and my roommate said to me, Daniella, you cook all the time in our dorm. Like, we have a hot plate and a microwave and you're making amazing meals and you watch cooking shows all the time. Like, you only ever talk about preparing his food. Like, is this something that you think you would want to pursue? And at the time I was like, I don't think so. I don't think this is something that is like a feasible career, because I think it would be hard for me as a woman, and I'm small, and I'm, it doesn't make very much money, and it doesn't give you quality of life, and it's hard hours. But I thought about it and I couldn't stop thinking about that conversation and those questions. And then at the end of my sophomore year of college, my sister passed away in a really terrible and unexpected car accident. And that was the moment my life changed forever. Everything about my life was difficult. Everything about being in that really intense moment of grief shaped me. There was no looking back for me. I remember that I thought in my head, there's no time like now to pursue what I want to do. And it was like a light switch turned on for me. In this dark, deep grief moment, I couldn't believe that something felt like there was a light that went on. This like little tiny glimmer of truth in grief, which was, I have to go after and pursue a career in food. I think in moments of dark, deep grief, a lot of times people will gravitate towards just being consumed by their sadness. And I knew that that wasn't something that I wanted to do. And the reason I didn't want to do that was because I wanted to live for my sister. I wanted to live for her in a way that she was unable to live. I actually had a trip planned to study abroad in Argentina for my first semester of my junior year of college. And I remember this moment a few months after we had buried my sister and our life was all changing and people were moving and things were different now. Angelina was not in our life anymore physically. My parents said to me, you can't go on your study abroad trip. You can't go to Argentina. You need to stay with your family because we need to be together. It's really important for us to be together during this time. And it was really difficult for me. It was the hardest decision of my life. And I say this truly, honestly, for me to decide, no, I have to put myself first, even here. I have to continue to live because Angelina couldn't. And so at the very last moment, I decided I was going to pursue moving myself to Argentina and going on this study abroad experience anyway. The flight to Argentina was 18 hours and I cried the entire time. I could not speak Spanish. I was completely by myself alone and I was terrified. And I remember within a few months, everything about my life completely changed. And instead of focusing on only my grief and my sadness, I was able to focus on what does it look like for me to live? What does it look like for me to learn how to adapt in a new environment quickly? What is it like for me to spend my days understanding Argentine cuisine and culture? It was a godsend. It literally saved my life to be there. And not only did it save my life, but it also helped me define that I'm ready to be a chef. I'm ready to pursue this dream. Culinary school was so incredible for me, not just because I was actually with students and I was actually going to be learning French classic culinary technique, but because the deans of the French Culinary Institute were all of my favorite French chefs that I had been watching for years on PBS. One of the shows that I absolutely loved watching was Chef Jacques Pepin's show. And I remember on the first day of culinary school, we were told to take a bunch of onions and carrots and just play with our knives, get used to holding our knife. And as we were doing that, Chef Jacques Pepin himself walked into the kitchen. And as soon as he walked through the door, there was like a moment where I didn't even think I was in my body. Like there was no other place on earth that I was supposed to be except for right here, right now. And I was so overwhelmed with gratitude that I sliced my finger on my knife and I fainted. and it was so embarrassing. Gabrielle Hamilton of Prune Restaurant came to my culinary school to do a demo, and I remember going to hers and thinking, gosh, this woman's amazing. She's totally rad. I need to get to know her. And so I stayed at the end of her demo and I waited till she was cleaned up and like packing out her knives and everything. And like a groupie, I totally like asked at the moment that she was leaving if there'd be any way that she would have a conversation with me about her path. And she was so kind of like smitten by the fact that I waited until she was like all packed up and everyone else had left the auditorium, that she invited me to come to have coffee with her at her restaurant, Prune, in the East Village. And I went the very next day, I had coffee with her, and as we sat down, I was not intimidated at all. I straight up asked, will you give me a job? I wanna work for you. I wanna work in a New York City kitchen. It's a small restaurant. Please give me this opportunity. It's funny because I don't actually feel all that confident, but what I do feel is ambitious. So my ambition always outweighed my confidence. I handed her a little printed schedule. I printed out my class schedule and I put it inside of this card, and I just thanked her for her time. And I got a phone call from her the next day saying she was so surprised by the card and the fact that I had printed out my schedule and that it was like a mini little schedule that she could post in her office, that she wanted to hire me no matter what, that she would make the hours work, she would find room in this kitchen. And she was like taken aback by how ambitious and how like clear I was that I wanted to be in her kitchen. So I got a job at Prune. I loved working for every single restaurant that I worked for, but what I knew was I was getting burnt out very quickly. The hours were hard, like I always imagined. The pay was low. It was tough. I didn't want to give up, and I didn't want to resent my craft. So I very clearly knew, I think it's time for me to make a shift. I want to stay in food, but I want to do it differently. I can give myself a little breather room and break for a moment to just learn about the other aspects of what I can do as a creator in food. There was a moment where I decided, okay, now I want to try something else. And my dad called me one day and said, Daniella, you've been watching culinary shows your entire life on television. Why don't you pursue culinary TV? Why don't you get behind a camera? You articulate really well. You love food. You can explain and educate people on how to cook and technique. Get in front of a camera. What would that be like for you? And at the time I was like, no, Dad, I could never do that. Who would ever give me an opportunity? I don't have a camera. I don't know how to use a camera. Like, how am I gonna get content out? And at the time, there wasn't social media. There wasn't like, nobody was using YouTube. It just wasn't happening yet. I remember we were sitting in a Chinese food restaurant and having this amazing meal, and the general manager of the station said to me, you know, Daniella, we wanted to take this meeting with you and have this lunch because we're looking for a culinary host. Do you know anybody? We want it to be somebody probably in 40s or 50s, a male, a wonderful chef. Could you recommend anyone to us? We want to have a food show on our station, but we don't know where to look. And I said, you know what? I don't know anybody, but I have an idea for an awesome food show that's farm to table. It's all about where our food comes from the source to the main course. I think it should be called Delicious Discoveries with Daniella Malfitano. Thinking that they would not take me up on this, that it was just like, you know, some innocent young person's idea. And the general manager looked me dead in the eye and said, we're giving you a contract at lunch. And I was like, oh my gosh, thank you, God. Before doing radio, I didn't know I had it in me. I wasn't sure if it was something that I was capable of. I didn't even know if it was something that I would like, but I knew immediately when doing the first shoot for Delicious Discoveries, within the first couple of hours, the camera crew said to me, have you done this before? Like, have you had a career in this? Like, what's your experience? And everyone was confused by the fact that I had never done it before. Not only had I never done it, but it was like literally the first day of my life ever getting behind a camera in a real professional manner. But it came so natural to me and it felt like this is my home. And I'm so glad that I trusted my instinct and I followed myself through all of the intimidation factor and all of the fear to pursue life in media and to pursue food in media, because it's always really difficult to know where you will land and if it will work out. As soon as I arrived to LA, I got an email on LinkedIn by a chef at the Walt Disney Company who worked for Disney Tokyo. And he said that he had been watching my segments on PBS and really loved all the work and the content that I was creating and asked if I'd ever consider working for Disney. They actually offered me an opportunity to be a part of the Disney Food and Wine Festival for the first year that they had it. And they wanted me to do many different kinds of shows. They wanted me to do food demos. They also wanted me to do lifestyle shows. So I did that for the first year. And at the end of the first year of the Disney Food and Wine Festival, I was asked to come back in the second year, but to be the host of the entire festival. I remember Disney called me on the final day before they had to close their parks, and they asked me to come in. They said, will you please come in for our final day? And there's not gonna be other entertainment in the park. There's just gonna be a few things. You'll be one of the sort of main attractions, but will you do your show on the final day? And I said, absolutely, of course. I went on the final day. It was March 13th, 2020. Friday the 13th. It was an eerie day. As soon as I left, I sort of felt like I was levitating off the stage because it was like, nobody knew if Disney was gonna reopen, when they would reopen. All the festival team was devastated. We were gonna have to end our festival run. And I got back to my dressing room and I was packing up and closed the door and I was by myself. And I think there were even some tears. And in that quiet moment, I heard a voice, and the voice inside was very clear. It said, Daniella, you will no longer use animals. And it felt like it was my own voice inside or something that was speaking to me. And I thought, that's very weird. Like, what does this mean? It didn't make any sense at the time. When I came home through that experience in the next few weeks, I just spent kind of meditating and praying with, what was that message? What was that thing that I heard? What does that mean? We were in this experience that we were in a global health crisis, and I wasn't gonna use this moment to sit around and be sad. I was gonna help people. And I was so fueled up and fired up and inspired by basically everything I had created with Disney in this 5th year that I wanted to bring it to my own studio. And thankfully, a year prior, I had already created this studio space because I was already doing on the side My Choice Kitchen, which was my first show on YouTube. And it was all about family-friendly cooking. And I thought, you know what? I'm gonna redefine my brand on YouTube and I'm gonna try a different show. And I think I'm going to call it Plant-Based Made Easy. And I think I'm gonna go plant-based. I realized that once I had this studio up, I not only could, be creative and use this space in lots of different ways, but I could actually establish a real connection with my audience because I was doing it in my own space daily on YouTube, and I was creating an instant connection with people that were really enjoying my content. And it really just showed me that the power of having a personal connection with your audience. And there's nothing better than actually creating that for yourself and being able to have your own timeline and be able to put out content as fast or as much as you want. As soon as I created and defined Plant-Based Made Easy as a new brand, I created my email list with it. There was something about the timing of 2020 and people wanting to get healthier and wanting access to daily content all the time that people signed up for my newsletter immediately. And I started getting a lot of views on my YouTube and Facebook. And my newsletter grew from 0 to 1,000 within only a few months. It's really nice to get that feedback, to know that what I'm doing matters to people. This is my workspace. This is really where the ideas come and the ideas actually become real. So I sit in here every single day for many hours, and main thing that I really work on is creating the product itself. So this is where the magic happens. I actually create the product from start to finish by myself. I graphic design everything, I develop the recipes, I lay it down and create a book out of it. And then I upload it on ConvertKit as my backside commerce site. And I start to sell and promote. And then obviously there's the whole social media component. I have to get and share all of the content that I have daily. It takes many, many hours. People always say to me, like, what do you do? Like, what is your day like beyond just the 30 minutes that you're on camera? You must be bored, right? And I'm like, no, like there's so much that actually goes into creating the actual product that people don't really think about. And I love being in this space because it's really kind of comfy. I have my favorite photos and images on the wall, and then some family photos, especially this one right here. This came from my sister just 6 months before she passed away. She got me a journal and she wrote a note at the very beginning, the first page of the journal that says, "To my sissy, because you have found your voice, use these pages to write what you feel. Don't ever stop learning about life. I love growing and experiencing with you. Love, Ange." I think my sister is with me every day and connected with me and is the inspiration. I think most importantly though, my sister would be so proud that I didn't stop in the face of grief and that I continued to push on and to live on and to honor her in the process. My life is totally changed now that I'm a creator because I have the ability to be with my ideas and see them through. There was something always in me innately that was like pushing me. It was like I couldn't turn it off, no matter what I wanted to do. And believe me, there's been many moments in my life where I just want to stop and I don't want to actually go after anything, but I can't. It's like I'm just not meant to do that. And I think that that's the thing. It's like something is leading me because I'm meant to do it, because when I do it and when I'm passionate about it, I can inspire other people and their lives can change.